Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP-TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut steaks, and of course, best burger I've ever had, those gigantic half-pound USDA Prime Wagyu burgers. Mercy, those are the best I truly have ever had. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call. Find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Hell, try those short rib of beef too. Boy, those are really exciting. 714-948-0100, or again, check them out again at uppercutchops.com. Yes! All right, welcome in, everybody. After licking your chops with all that incredible beef, man, that's good stuff. Welcome in, everybody, listening in on all of our network affiliates, on radio and TV and cable markets across America as well. Everybody at Chicago Food Favorites, also thanks for joining us on Facebook. That's Chicago Food Favorites, folks. Make sure you check that out on Facebook. Fun page. And of course, we're going to start with a fun story, because anything that happens on the wrong side of the fence for Ohio State, well, is always a big headline for us. And guess what, folks? This one we just simply start out with a little bit of laughter, because Ohio State is good in football, they're decent in basketball, and they are absolutely in the toilet in baseball. That's right, folks. How about this one? The Buckeyes suffer the unthinkable, and yes, this actually happened, leading 10-0 after 4 innings. Ohio State got just 1 hit over the final 5 innings, and the bullpen gave up 9 runs in the final 3 innings in a 12-10 loss to Alabama. Oh, boy, that's good stuff. You can't beat this one. This one is compliments of PressProsMagazine.com. Been around since 2010. That sounds like in the Wayback Time Machine, but not really. So, somewhere during the flight back to Columbus, well, there might have been a little bit of turbulence, just a little bit, on the Ohio State baseball charter. Now, what I'm wondering is, what in the world were they doing on an airplane from Alabama? It's not that far, folks. Take the bus like everyone else. But nonetheless, after they squandered a 10-0 lead in the 4th inning and watched Alabama score 12 unanswered runs, including 3 3-run homers, 1 in the bottom of the 9th to win the finale of the Jacks Classic in Jacksonville, Florida. It made the score, yes, 12-10. Alabama 8-0 won it 12 runs on 12 hits and 13 men left on base. Yes, we have to say it like that because it's more of a noble thing. Ohio State dropped to 1-5 on the season with 10 runs on 7 hits and left just 2 on base because they got just 1 hit and 1 runner on via the walk over the final 5 innings. So, it really got ugly for these guys quick. I mean, look, they got off to a good start, right? Their starting pitcher lasted 3 2/3, and he left the game with a 10-0 lead. before giving 3 runs up in the top of the 4th. And, of course, then his line, they said, "Now we're going to take you out." No, we're not going to take you out. We're going to leave him in. But now he's into the 4th inning, and they yank him out in the top of the 4th. His line was 3 runs, 4 hits, 4 strikeouts, but 6 walks. That's right, 6 walks. And of course, coming in after him was a freshman, Mr. Salzburg, not to be confused with Salzburg, Austria. But this guy, Zev Salzburg, pitched the next 2 2/3 innings, giving up a run on 2 hits. Well, I guess that's bad, but it's not too bad. ERA of, I don't know, somewhere around 5, whatever. His line, 1 run on 2 hits, no strikeouts, and a walk. Still got a free pass in there. But after Salzburg, transfer Luke Carell came in on the 7th to work 2 innings. His line, are you ready for this one, folks? 7 runs, all earned on 5 hits, 4 walks, and 5 Ks. Carell led 10-7 entry the home half of the 9th, when with 1 out, he walked the next 2 batters. And redshirt freshman Nick Copperhaven was called up to retire the last 2 outs. And then good old Copperhaven, Haver, we'll call him, faced 1-hitter, Alabama first baseman Will Hodo, who hit a 3-run jack to win the game 12-10. Come on, folks. That is good material. Nice round of applause for this guy. Yes! And as far as Ohio State, that's exactly what happened. It was the unthinkable, but the unthinkable does happen, and it's happened before. But what made it what it was again the fact of free bases, the walk. Too many walks. Alabama is a good hitting team, but Ohio State, their pitchers walked 11, and 6 of those guys scored. And so those guys, being the Buckeyes, are off until, well, lucky for them, until Friday when they can't lose another game. But now they got to play Auburn, and that's going to be a Globe-like park over in Arlington, Texas, home of the Texas Rangers. Then it's Baylor the next day, and right after that is going to be Oregon State. So look, they've got their hands full. And let's take a look at the standings, if you will, just because we can. Leading the Big Ten is going to be, yes, the Purdue Boilermakers at 8-0. Yes! Then Michigan State 6-1, USC 6-1, UCLA 6-1, Northwestern 5-1, Penn State 5-1. Number 11, Oregon 6-2, Illinois 4-2, Michigan 4-3, Iowa 3-3, Maryland 3-3. Nebraska 3-4, Rutgers 3-4, Indiana 2-4, Minnesota 2-4, Washington 2-5, and Ohio State at 1-5. Boy, those guys aren't very good at baseball, are they? Gotta like that. So, this was brought to you by our friend, one of our loyal listeners. His name is Jerry Owens, and Jerry is a teacher at John G. Carlisle Elementary School in Covington, Kentucky. Now, in case you don't know who John G. Carlisle is, I asked Jerry, and he was a little befuddled on this. But just in case you didn't know, let's give you a little bit of knowledge. John Griffin Carlisle was an American attorney and Democratic Party politician from Kentucky. He represented Kentucky in the United States House of Representatives from 1877 to 1890. Serving as the 31st Speaker of the House from 1883 to 1889, and served in the United States Senate from 1890 to 1893. He served as the 41st Secretary of Treasury in the second administration of President Grover Cleveland from 1893 to 1897, a period that included the Panic of 1893. As a Bourbon Democrat, he was a leader of the conservative pro-business wing of the party along with Grover Cleveland. Now, that's pretty good information. Shall we continue? Maybe not. But what we will say, let's go with Mr. Carlisle, because now we know about John G. Carlisle Elementary over in Covington, Kentucky. And let's think about Grover Cleveland. So he worked for Grovey. Well, guess what? You may recall back in the day that there was $1,000 bill that featured the portrait of Grover Cleveland. the 22nd and 24th President of these United States of America. The most notable versions, of course, printed in 1928 and 1934. And, of course, the front of the bill featured a portrait of Grover Cleveland facing the right and a seal of the United States Department of Treasury. And the back, of course, was a decorative border and lathe work. So, obviously, the bill was made by the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, in case you didn't know. But the original $1,000 bill did feature Alexander Hamilton on the front. Cleveland, at that time, was the only president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms until Donald J. Trump. Yes! That a boy be. So, by the way, Grover Cleveland, since we're on it right now, in case you didn't know, how about the old Grover Cleveland $1 coin? Yes, there actually was a coin. And we'll go back to 2012, and it was a special gold coin that was printed, gold tone coin nonetheless. And these you can pick up out there for about, well, one of them is $200. You can find that on Pick Your Favorite Auction site. Another one at $36. But Grover Cleveland is the only president to be on something so big, being the $1,000 bill, and something so little as the $1 coin, in case you're wondering. Now, that's pretty good information. How do you like that? All right, folks, we're going to be back here in a few minutes on the circus, and we're going to talk a little bit of baseball. We're going to still mention our friend Jerry Owen, who is one of our loyal listeners from Northern Kentucky. Thanks for everybody joining us there, and from coast to coast on all of our network affiliates. Back here in a few minutes on the circus. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call
714-948-0100, 714-948-0100, again, 714-948-0100.
or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the New York Yankees, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Alabama Crimson Tide, who just put a whooping on Ohio State. And, of course, welcome into everybody else up and down the West Coast and throughout the Heartline on all of our independents as well as network affiliates, plus our friends in Auburn, Alabama, WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves, plus our friends over in Atlanta at WDJY 99.1 FM. We always make sure we mention them because we like them too, just like you should. And everybody that listens, you've been listening for years over there with us. Thank you for that. All right, everybody else on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook, thanks for joining us. Plus, Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, and Wow Cable TV, Hotel TV, and, of course, Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook, I just mentioned, but Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, and, of course, everybody on the Mars rover. You can pick up any one of those as well. All right, so back to our friend over listening in Covington, Kentucky. I think it's Covington. I think he actually is south there. But anyway, I know his school is in Covington. Maybe he's from Florence, Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken. Nonetheless, think about this, Mr. Jerry Owens. You're a long-time listener of the show, I believe. Actually, in fact, maybe you're not, but maybe you do like to listen. I know you listen to quite a few of the episodes, and we've had plenty of dialogue about these as well. And, you know, I asked you, I know you live in greater Cincinnati, and I know you're a Reds fan, and that's great. But the one thing that I want to know, when I ask you, what's your team looking like this year? And he says, well, mind you, he's a super fan, so to say. He says, well, you know, we are looking pretty good. I like what I'm reading and this and that. Well, listen, Jerry. Jerry, you're a great guy, but buddy, if you're a fan of the game, that's one thing. If you were a Reds fan, that is something entirely different. Now, if you are a super fan, a foam finger, that's something entirely different. But let's go back to you being just a Reds fan. When I ask you what's going on with your team, well, they look pretty good in the paper kind of thing, whatever. Well, first of all, I didn't even know that people still read a newspaper, if you know what I mean. But secondly, no, you can read a box score. I know you can read that stuff online. But what I'm curious of is, how do you know that they look good if you're not watching the games in the first place? Come on, man. That is completely unacceptable. Do you even know who's on the roster? You all know Ellie De La Cruz is arguably the most exciting player in baseball. I believe he is the most exciting player. Soon he'll be the best player in baseball. He's not there yet. Now, you know about Brady Singer. We talked about Brady Singer. You talked about Gavin Lux as well, and Austin Hayes. And now remember, you also have guys like Matt McClain. You have a catcher. What's your catcher's name? Oh, that's right, Jose Trevino. You have Rhett Lauder, in case you didn't know, a pitcher. And where did he come from? Wake Forest, in case you don't remember. But you also have a guy by the name of who? Spencer Steer. That's your third baseman. In case you forgot, Taylor Rogers, a pitcher. Where did he come from? He came from the Twinkies. Nick Martinez, a pitcher. Reese Hines, a pitcher. Or, no, better yet, a right fielder. Pardon me. Scott Barlow is a pitcher. Where did he come from? The Cleveland We'll call them the Clevelands because I don't want to call them the other name because I think that's stupid. Tyler Stevenson is still your catcher. Well, guess what? He's your first string catcher. The other guy, Trevino, is your second string. Hunter Green, is he your best pitcher? I don't really think so, but he's a good one. You have Candelario as your another third baseman. And you have Marte as another shortstop. Will Benson, another right fielder. Alexis Diaz, a pitcher. Now, Jerry, are you paying attention? Jake Fraley, your right fielder. Graham Ashcroft, a very good pitcher. Santiago Espinal, a very good third baseman. Where'd he come from? Toronto. How about Friedel? That's your center fielder. You better know him. And then it goes on and on. I think arguably your best pitcher is Nick Lodolo, the lefty. This kid's really good. Andrew Abbott, another good pitcher. Brandon Williamson, another good pitcher. Connor Phillips, another good pitcher. Stuart Fairchild, your left fielder. And Encarnacion Strand, a quality first baseman. I think he's going to get replaced, though, in my opinion. I know he moved from third to first. I think he's going to get moved. And I believe that there's a chance that they're going to have a different first baseman when it comes to opening day. Now, Brett Suter, pitcher. Carson Spears, pitcher. Sam Mole, pitcher. Jerry, are you taking notes here? Remember, you have other pitchers too. You have Pagan. You have Zuleta. You have Richardson. You have Santillan. And then you have Blake Dunn as your center fielder behind the other guy, Friedel. Remember him? Lou May, another pitcher. And then you also have another second baseman in Callahan. So I don't know if you're paying attention to this, Mr. Owens, but guess what? Make sure that you follow your team, watch the recorded shows or the recorded games, and you can watch those on YouTube. We talked about YouTube earlier. And guess what? You can watch all of those games, get all your highlights. And look, looking at the box score is one thing. Now, folks, the reason I'm kind of picking on Jerry a little bit, Jerry's a friend, and Jerry is an avid Reds fan, right? Or is he a fan of the Red Legs? Just in case you didn't know this, folks, during 1954, the Reds changed their name to the Red Legs in response to the second Red Scare and the height of communism. Of course, the name change never really caught on and was reversed prior to the 1959 season, in case you didn't know that. Oh, yeah. But I'm picking on Jerry a little bit because I can. Jerry's a great guy. But ultimately, when we think about what is a fan and what is the fan exposed to from an information standpoint. So in Jerry's case, Jerry can only go off of what he reads because he's got to work. And he's a teacher over at John G. Carlisle Elementary School over in Covington, Kentucky. All right, so that's why we mentioned John G. Carlisle Elementary. All right, so good for them. I don't like the fact that they are called the Cubs, but then again, it is what it is because I'm not really a Cub fan. But anyway, so we think about the information that is disseminated to guys like Jerry and everybody else to pick your favorite team, whether you're a Reds fan, a Yankees fan, a Dodgers fan, a Cubs fan, a White Sox fan, a Mets fan, a Marlins fan, whatever, an Astros fan, whatever. The point is, if you don't have a lot of time, you have to rely on the information that is disseminated to you. Now, part of the issue in getting good information is partly due to the market size that you're in. So in Kansas City, for example, it's a small market team. Like Cincinnati is a small market team, a tertiary level city. So it's not as big as some of the others. And, well, they don't necessarily get the coverage, the media coverage that maybe New York or LA or Chicago gets. So when you say, well, how do the Reds look? Well, Jerry's got to go and look at whatever he could find on the Reds because he was working. Of course, you can always go to YouTube and watch the games. But the point is, you're only as good as the information that's provided to you. And so when I ask him, how's your team doing? He goes to whatever he knows and whatever's information is disseminated to him. The problem is the reporting. This is about responsible reporting, folks. There's not a lot of coverage in the first place for third-level city teams, and that's because of advertising dollars. Think about what the advertising dollars are for the Cincinnati Reds versus the New York Mets, right? We're talking the Big Apple, right? Or the LA Dodgers, the world champion Dodgers. Well, the reality is these are first-tier cities that get all the advertising. I wouldn't say all of it, but they get the bulk of the advertising. They have the bulk of the media. And so everybody seems to pay attention to them rather than the smaller teams. When I say smaller, not smaller in size, but the smaller market teams. And so usually the coverage is sparse And a lot of times the information is kind of glossed over and glazed over. Why? For example, Cincinnati is playing over in the Cactus League. So they just played the Dodgers, for example. And the Dodgers get all the press because they're the world champion Dodgers. Well, guess what? The Reds information that's disseminated back to the fan base is minimal at best. And this goes back to, well, how come nobody's covering these guys? Well, that's part of your responsibility. Yeah, but that's not what the money wants us to cover. So remember, folks, when I say the money knows all, show me the money! Show me the money, and I'll show you some media coverage for the smaller market teams. Now think about the Kansas City Royals are going to be very good this season. Very good. And they've got some great players on that team. They've improved the team on top of it. And these guys should win the American League Central Division, and likely they'll be in the World Series. I don't really see another team contending with them. I mean, really, down to the screws, maybe the Detroit Tigers may contend a little bit, but the Tigers are still missing a couple of pieces. But again, the media coverage for the smaller market teams is going to be a little bit less than what it ought to be. And you could thank organizations like the big newspapers and the big media companies. I don't want to name them because I don't want them to bring suit against me. But ultimately, they're not giving the coverage. So let's face it, the American public and the worldwide public generally is left out in the cold. Maybe they want to root for some of the smaller market teams, and they just can't get enough information, and they're just stuck. So, Jerry Owens, I'm only giving you a hard time because I can, but ultimately, you're going to have to watch those games, and when I ask you how your team's doing, come on, man, give me something. Don't just give me nothing. That's right. All right, folks, when we come back, we're going to pick up with baseball. We're going to talk about some injuries throughout spring training, what players are coming back, which ones are going to have a little bit slower start to the season, and which ones you can expect to step up and stand out. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Don't go anywhere. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time. That's 800-950-2049.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, or recorded shows, which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Pandora, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Deezer, YouTube, you name it. We're there. You can't get away from us. Also, make sure you check out the store. There's a store tab right across the top of thesportscircus.com. Lots of great springtime and summertime gear coming up. Hey, pick up your hats, your t-shirts, and all kinds of fun stuff, even socks and mouse pads and travel mugs and coffee mugs and all kinds of fun things. Check out the store at thesportscircus.com. It's right across the top, right in the middle. A shameless plug, of course, for the Sports Circus. Just because we can. All right, welcome back to everybody. You know who you are. Well, by the way, Mr. Jerry Owens, who we've been talking about in the last segment, who is from John G. Carlisle Elementary School in Covington, Kentucky, one of our loyal listeners. In case you didn't know, the Cincinnati Reds mascot, it's hourly paid, Mr. Red, who is one of the coolest mascots with that giant cranium, that big ball for a head. The estimated total pay range for him is between $16 and $29 an hour. That's ridiculous. The average mascot base salary at Cincinnati, for the Reds that is $21 an hour. I think you can now work at a fast food place and make more money. How ridiculous is that? Speaking of which, that's a product of what? A small market team, right? So if you look at these big market teams, I mean, shoot, Rocky the Mountain Lion over in Denver makes $625,000 a year. That is the mascot for the Denver Nuggets, $625,000. And that mascot is in half the games as Mr. Red for the Reds. That's ridiculous. That is crazy. But here, think about this. Rocky's salary, Rocky the Mountain Lion, that is, salary is 10 times higher than the average NBA mascot's salary, which is around $60,000. Why in the world does he make $625,000? Well, they say, well, it's due to entertainment and over-the-top stunts and all this other nonsense. So whatever. It was included in the 2006 Mascot Hall of Fame. All right. Other high-paid mascots include Harry the Hawk, the Atlanta Hawks mascot, earned $600,000. Mind you, remember, Mr. Red makes $21 an hour on average. Benny the Bull from the Chicago Bulls makes $400,000. Go the Gorilla, this Phoenix Suns mascot, earns $200,000. And even Hugo the Hornet in another small market city. Okay, Mr. Red, think about this. You're making $21 on average an hour. This guy's making $100K a year. What in the world? That's crazy. Well, just sticking with the money thing. How about this? How about umpires? Major League Baseball umpires, they earn between $120,000 and over $450,000 a year. So imagine this. The Lion, Rocky the Mountain Lion, makes more money than the highest paid Major League Baseball umpire. That's ridiculous. You just think of that. I mean, even Benny the Bull makes $400,000. Go the Gorilla makes just about as much seemingly. The whole thing is just complete lunacy. I don't even understand this. And you wonder why pitchers are getting squeezed, right? Maybe they're using too many baseballs. The baseballs don't cost that much money, but a Major League Baseball game typically uses up to 120 baseballs in a game. Yeah, and you say, well, why are the ticket prices so much money?
Show me the money!
I don't know. Is it because of the baseballs? No. Greedy owners? Maybe. But do the owners have to pay the greedy players? Yes, they do. I think greedy players are the biggest problem. And so, when you think about they use so many baseballs, you say, well, why the hell do they use so many baseballs? What do you mean 120 baseballs in a game? Well, look, a new baseball is usually introduced at the beginning of each half inning. So technically that's 18 of them. Balls that touch the ground are often removed from play, especially if they get dirty or scuffed. Why? Well, first of all, if they get scuffed, the pitcher could use that to their advantage to create maybe a tighter spin on the ball or a bigger breaking ball. But if they get dirty, it helps the batter identify what kind of pitch is coming, because possibly they might be able to pick the rotation up to see which way that dirt mark is spinning. Now, that's a real thing. People say, oh, you can't pick up the rotation. You can pick up the seams from time to time. It just depends on how good your vision is. And you could really only pick up a split second of it, but that's all it takes, folks, because you have less than a second to swing that baseball bat by the time the pitcher releases the ball. 60 foot, 6 inches, going 100 miles an hour, you do the math. Now, also, umpires are more likely to swap out balls during the postseason when they're dirty or not. It doesn't really matter. Extra inning games and practice balls also increase the number of baseballs used, in case you didn't know. And the number of baseballs used in a season can add up to nearly 300,000 souvenirs for fans. And so when you add in playoffs, extra innings, practice balls, you could be looking at 3 times that amount. You're talking about up to 1 million baseballs? And how many million fans? Well, geez, if you go into Dodger Stadium, you're seeing 4 or 5 million fans a year go through those gates. Tell me they're not making some lettuce. And, of course, at the end of the games, baseballs were either lost or in the hands of a fan or recycled in a batting practice. I mean, look, these all go into that factor. And so you ask yourself, well, why is everything so expensive? Well, think about this. The minimum salary in Major League Baseball today, well, let's put it this way. And I guess there's a lot of ways to look at this one. But a couple of years ago, it was $720,000. I mean, it has been very, very sharp. When you look at what has happened here, now this is according to the Associated Press, the rate of increase for Major League Baseball's average salary slowed to 2.9% last year to a record $4.6 million, according to the annual report of the Players Association. That's the rate of increase for Major League Baseball's average salary. That's right. So the average of $4,655,366 was up from $4,525,719 in 2023, which marks a 7% increase from 2022. Now, after declining to $3.68 million in 2021, a year following the pandemic-shortened season, the average rose 23% over the next 2 seasons. So union figures are based on 2024 salaries, earned bonuses, and prorated shares of signing bonuses for 1,033 players on August 31st, active rosters and injured lists before active rosters expanded for the remainder of the season when they're calling up all the minor league guys. And the union report was finalized at salary arbitration hearings starting just recently. So you look at last year, $740,000 is the minimum. Back in 2017, it's gone up from $535,000. That is a very significant increase, folks. And when you look at this, you scratch your head and say, well, how the hell can anybody really afford to go to a baseball game, play in a baseball game, and, I don't know, take a family of 4 to a baseball game? The whole thing is a colossal ripoff, as I see it. I give an example of what it was like to go to Wrigley Field back when I was a kid, about 11 years old. I used the consumer price index and everything else, and it cost me $0.25 on the train to get up to Wrigley Field from the west side of Chicago. It cost me $1 to get into the game, sit in the bleachers. It cost me $0.25 for Coke, $0.25 for a hot dog, and $0.25 for the ride back. So $2, and my buddy Jimmy and I would go for the doubleheaders, of course, which is great because they had real doubleheaders back in the day, and about a half an hour break in between the games. And so for $2, you can have a whole day of entertainment. Now, a bleacher seat at Wrigley Field, well, last year anyway, I don't even know what it is this year. Last year, it was $76, as I had found. This year, it's probably going to be a little bit higher. And look, the Cubs just signed Kyle Tucker. They made a deal for Kyle Tucker. They're going to have to pay this guy eventually. And so Kyle Tucker is going to be one of those gigantic salaries when they sign him to the long-term deal. He's going to demand a 5 or 6 year deal, and that'll be up in the neighborhood of $400 million as I see it. So Rick is going to have to pony up some cash. And remember, they have nobody really to hit behind Kyle Tucker, so they're going to probably have to bring back Anthony Rizzo to play first base and hit behind him or be the designated hitter. So they're going to have to pony up some more millions of dollars there. And the Cubs have that big contract with Dansby Swanson sitting out there. And then they got this guy, then they got that guy. And look, they just paid, what's his name, Ryan Presley. They picked him up from the Houston Astros as well as a closer. The Cubs are going to be in a lot of money. They'll be a much improved ball team. They'll probably be about 6 or 8 games above 500, maybe even a 90-win team. They're not going to win the division. They may win it, but it looks like still Milwaukee and St. Louis are just a click ahead of them. But they will contend, I think, all the way till late in the season. They'll find themselves likely in the playoffs. I think the Reds will probably end up finding themselves with maybe 85 wins. I'm really thinking that's about right. You think about this, folks. If you're going 85 wins, that means, well, you're losing what? Or 77, so right? 85 and 77, that's a pretty good season. It's 162 games. And so that's about where the Reds stand, unless they make some great moves during spring training. Terry Francona is a great manager, but you can only play the hand you're dealt. I think the Reds are still going to make some moves during spring training, and they'll probably, if they're contending before the All-Star break, they'll make a deal or two. But they're going to have the other teams to contend with. The Brewers, who are still the best in the division. The Cubs are certainly right there, and so are the Cardinals. And the Pittsburgh Pirates are much improved as well, although they didn't help themselves by signing Andrew Heaney. Back here in a few minutes for the final segment of the Sports Circus. Sticking with baseball. Don't go anywhere.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, again, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests or prior guests recorded shows, which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, and a whole bunch of others. Also, make sure you head over to the partners page. Lots of great partners over there. One of our favorites is Al's No. 1 Italian Beef at 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. Al's No. 1 Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. Check them out also at alsbeef.com. If you can't make it over there, folks, alsbeef.com. You can learn all about the Italian beef sandwich, which is significantly different and way, way better than that awful Philly cheesesteak garbage sandwich, in my opinion. I could say that because I can. But I have to tell you, folks, it is a very different thing. And it's been around for, I don't know, about 100 years. In fact, the owners of Al's No. 1 Italian Beef, it's their uncle that actually first put together the first Italian beef sandwich. These guys have been around since 1938. Read about them, folks, at alsbeef.com. All right, so those are our friends. And, of course, we're going to plug the living daylights out of them because we want extra fries next time we go in there and make a purchase. Anyway, welcome back to everybody. You know you are TV and radio. Everybody on Chicago Food Favorites, that one's for you especially. Folks, check out Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. We're almost 2,000 strong, and that is a nice organic growth page. It's fun. Actually, it's a group. Post your favorite restaurants, your favorite recipes, your favorite foods. It doesn't matter. Have some fun with it. Just don't spam the page because I am the administrator and I will blow your post up. Yeah. So don't get stupid about it, but have some fun with it, folks. All right. Moving on. All right. So how about this? Sticking with Major League Baseball, thinking about the injuries for spring training. And a lot of these injuries, they happen because these players are not ready to go exercise. They get really lazy in the off season. Once October hits and their teams aren't in the playoffs or whatever, maybe they're out playing golf or they're doing whatever the hell they're doing, they're eating a little bit extra. A lot of times they come in really out of shape. And so here is a handy dandy rundown of some of the latest news on injured players across Major League Baseball, according to Major League Baseball, MLB.com. So we have Sean Manaea. Of course, Sean always gets a round of applause from us. And if you know me, you'll know why. Nick Madrigal, Frankie Montas. Okay, 3 guys with the New York Mets. The Metropolitans have some problems. So Carlos Mendoza, their manager, said, well, in fact, it was just yesterday, that Sean Manaea has been diagnosed with a right oblique strain and will likely miss opening day. Folks, that is no joke. That oblique strain, think about it, those proverbial love handles. Well, if you trim yourself down, you have that oblique muscle in there. And I have to tell you, when you pull that, it is nagging and it just seems to stick around for a very long time. Honestly, I think Sean's going to be on the shelf on and off all season with that oblique strain. That's one of those things that you literally have to rest for 6 months and not do a darn thing. Now, Nick Madrigal dislocated his left shoulder. There's another issue during a Grapefruit League game just a couple of days ago. And the MRI revealed a fracture in the shoulder and that Madrigal would be out for a long time. There's no question about that. In fact, Nick Madrigal is a product of the Chicago White Sox, and he was injured before they traded him to the Cubs. And then the Cubs, of course, dealt him. He got healthy, played a little bit with the Cubs. Then the Cubs, of course, dealt him to their friends over in New York, or didn't sign him. And they said, okay, Mets, you can have him. And guess what? Now the Mets got themselves a pig in a poke. Although Madrigal is a very nice kid, guess what? He's going to be out again. His whole career seems to be marred with injuries. And also Frankie Montes, here's another guy, a high-grade lat strain, and will be shut down for 6 to 8 weeks. So think about this as a pitcher. You know the lats, you think those lat pull-downs on those pull-down machines. Well, the lat pull-downs, right, when the weight's over your head, you pull the bar down to if you're sitting down, you pull the bar down to your shoulders. Well, you're working your lats there, your traps and your lats. Well, guess what? When you pull one of those and you're a pitcher, you strain that, you're going to be out for quite a while. I think Frankie Montes won't be back, I'm going to guess, till after the All-Star break. So how about this? How about the Dodgers? How about show me the money?
Show me the money!
Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Bobby Miller, Evan Phillips, and Michael Kopech all have issues. Ohtani, of course, with that right elbow surgery, left shoulder surgery as well, is slated to return as a two-way player for the first time since joining the Dodgers. Got to tell you, folks, when you have an elbow surgery, and of course I like how the Dodgers are saying, well, it's not a Tommy John surgery. The first one was. But look, you could spin the story however you want. An elbow surgery, in my opinion, I'm saying in my opinion, I can say that, is likely another Tommy John issue. What is a Tommy John surgery? That is the ulnar nerve issue, right? You tweak your elbow every time you throw the slider, you throw it, you overthrow, and you keep tweaking the ulnar nerve. Well, guess what? Eventually that thing gets out of whack. Well, even when you're swinging a baseball bat, guess what? You're still doing the same thing. You're tweaking your elbow left and right. Every time you roll the bat over, you're moving that nerve over and over. And you could just sit there. I'm doing it right now. Just move your fingers, and you could feel that move. So it's the same thing, folks. I think Ohtani is maybe going to have one season of pitching, and they're going to say, you know what? We're going to save this guy's $700 million career. We're not going to pay him all this money for nothing, so we're going to go ahead and just have him be our designated hitter. I think Ohtani is going to revert to the DH role full-time, not this year, possibly next year. I think this may be the last year of pitching for Ohtani. And they'll say, well, you know what? George Herman Ruth, but you can call him Babe Ruth. He only pitched for a certain amount of years. Well, they're going to use the same argument, and they're going to try to draw parallels between Ohtani and Ruth. And Ruth is leaps and bounds better than Ohtani ever can be. Ruth's hitting mechanics are leaps and bounds better than Ohtani's. Ohtani can't hit an inside pitch up and in, and he doesn't keep his hands lined up the right way. He cannot hit a low and outside pitch either. Ohtani is very easy to figure out. As a pitcher, I will tell you that, as a former pitcher, bust him up and in, and then hit him low and away. This guy won't hit his way out of a wet paper bag. Guaranteed. I've argued with a manager on that, a previous manager on that before. Bobby Valentine didn't like the argument, but too bad, Bobby. Anyway, back to Ohtani. He began the offseason throwing back in December, and yeah, he's thrown a little bit. He's resumed hitting, of course, with the expectation that he'll be ready to hit on opening day, of course, because what do they need? They need butts in the seats. So the Dodgers need him out there. Yeah, he threw a 25-pitch bullpen session, whatever. Maybe they'll start him out of the bullpen and then work him into the regular rotation. I don't know. If anything, he'll be pitching once a week, once every 7 days, something to that effect. Anyway, Freddie Freeman. Freddie had surgery in the offseason on his right ankle after playing hurt during the postseason. Tested the ankle on the field for the first time just recently. Reports were positive, but he expects that he'll be ready to go for the season on opening day against the Cubs in Japan. And that's going to be on March 8th. Now, Miller, another guy, Bobby Miller, he's in concussion protocol after being hit in the head by a line drive during his appearance in the Dodgers Cactus League game opener against those Cubs. And he resumed playing catch just today. So Miller's going to be okay. And then we also have Evan Phillips. Evan Phillips is having a right shoulder issue, and Michael Kopech as well, a right forearm inflammation. And you ask, why do these guys have this? Well, look, Michael Kopech, I don't know if you know this, folks, but when he came up, he was throwing 105, 107 miles an hour, whatever the hell it was. They had him on the gun throwing about that, up to 110 miles an hour. Well, look, throwing hard is one thing. Batters, all they got to do is dial it up. But when you become a pitcher, you learn how to change speeds without changing your motion. You don't have to overthrow the ball. Look at a guy like Greg Maddux, best pitcher in the last 50 years. What did he do? He threw mid-80s to maybe low 90s at best. But but you've got to have command and control. These guys think they can overthrow the ball and do what? Overpower everybody. That's not the case. Dial it up a little bit and the ball will go 500 feet. Anyway, these guys, yes, they're going to likely start the season on the injured list, and Dave Roberts said that would depend on how they're able to build up over the next couple of weeks. Now, over to the Yankees, Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge. How about these guys? You need these guys. Stanton has been unable to resume baseball activities due to pain in both elbows, which has prompted a trip to New York for further consultation and testing down from the Grapefruit League. So Aaron Boone has described Stanton's issue as akin to tennis elbow. I guess that would be tennis elbows. But recent developments suggest it may be more significant. I don't know. I think Giancarlo Stanton's going to retire. But the money's awful good, though, so who knows? Now, Boone also said just the other day that Aaron Judge will not play in his first Grapefruit League game of the spring until right around the 1st of March. So they don't want to really rush him back, but they're just being really cautious. And, well, let's face it, it's one of those things. Wyatt Langford, good young player for the Texas Rangers. He has a mild oblique strain, just like Sean Manaea, but lucky for Langford that he's not pitching, but he will throw across the field. So Bruce Bochy really wants that guy healthy before they throw him out there back in the Cactus League games. Now, Ronald Acuna Jr. and Spencer Strider, the Atlanta Braves, for our friends over on WAUD, listen, and our friends over in WDJY in Atlanta. Ronald Acuna, you had the whole season, most of the season, with him out last year from that torn ACL, and he's not going to be ready for opening day either. So he's running at about 90% of his normal speed, but he's still, I'm going to say, maybe 2 weeks away from really getting in there with big drills. You probably won't see him till the All-Star break. Now, Spencer Strider, with the elbow surgery, has been throwing bullpen sessions and may be allowed to pitch in at least one game before the end of spring training. Now, remember, Max Fried left the Atlanta Braves. Atlanta didn't sign him. The New York Yankees signed him, which was a very smart move on their part. And I think that the Atlanta Braves said, you know what, we did fine without Strider, but now we can lose Strider, or we can lose Max Fried, and we're going to get our ace back, Spencer Strider. So we're really going to be in the same situation pitching-wise anyway, and I think that's the rationale behind it. So Cutter Crawford and Brian Bello with the Red Sox. Now Crawford's dealing with discomfort in a tendon in his knee. He's got the patellar tendon in his right knee. He's got an issue. Alex Cora says, well, it looks like Crawford won't be ready for opening day. And Bello, the pitcher, has been dealing with inflammation in his right shoulder, and that is the similar situation that Michael Kopech has for the LA Dodgers. Now, Julio Ramos and Tom Murphy for the Giants and Zach Manassian's squad. Ramos is dealing with a mild oblique issue. Again, folks, this is conditioning. And you have Tom Murphy, with a mid-back disc herniation. This guy received an epidural injection just today. And this guy's going to be shut down for probably a month or so. Who knows? And the Cubs have Javier Assad and Nico Horner out right now. Assad, of course, with what? A left oblique strain. This guy's going to be on and off the shelf. Stay off the fantasy baseball for this guy. I had him on my team last year. And so he's going to be in and out of the lineup. And Horner underwent flexor tendon surgery. This guy is going to be out, I think, for probably another, maybe a month. I don't know. Blake Perkins with the Brewers, Alex Cobb and Javier Baez with the Tigers. They're on the shelf. Rhett Lauder and Andrew Abbott for the Reds. For all you Reds fans out there, Lauder, of course, behind schedule. And Abbott came into camp as one of the pitchers. He's still working on his left shoulder issue. Lance McCullers for the Astros, another problem. Weston Wilson for the Phillies. Kyle Wright and James MacArthur for the Royals. They're out. Trevor Rogers and Jorge Mateo for the Orioles. The Orioles need Mateo. Spencer Horwitz for the Pirates and Hassan Kim for the Rays. That's going to do it for your injury report. We'll see you in 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA. the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.